Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Bradley Hallman. Today I'm going to pull a Todd Castledine and shoot a Todd Castledine film. Exactly. Sitting right here on this couch at Nate's house. We're going to talk about a subject about how this sport is changing so drastically and so quickly right in front of our eyes. Some of you guys have noticed it. Some of you guys may have not have noticed it. But the difference is that the average age of a prime angler in the prime of his life, the age is shrinking very, very quickly. It's the young guys. It's the very young guys. The knowledge, the experience, being able to travel, and they are dominating. Joey Fuentes just wins his second event as a rookie on the Elite Series. Huge accomplishment. But I don't know that today it's made such a big deal as it once was. My first stint on the Elite Series, I was a rookie in 2006. My roommate in 2007 was Derek Rimmets. He wins his first event in Amistad, and it was a huge deal. You know, young guy comes out of Minnesota, wins a tournament down in South Texas, and it was talked about and still talked about to this day. What Joey did is no less as impressive. Joey's won two in 1 year, and he's a rookie. He's a rookie. So let's talk about it. I've got some other numbers here that are really cool. Did some investigation. I had some help from some friends. And I've got some numbers here that are going to shock you guys about how quickly this sport is changing and about when it started changing. And maybe we'll get into the whys. When it changes will help us figure out the whys. All right, guys, let's do it. All right, guys, the sport is changing quickly, drastically, and fast. The prime age of a professional angler being in his. All right, guys, these are the things that I've noticed about the sport changing so quickly from when I started to where we are now today, and how dominant the young guys can be so quickly. There's a lot of different reasons. A lot of things come into this from technology, and it's not just live scope. And I know everybody's going to point at forward-facing sonar and say that's it. It's definitely a big part of it. It's not all of it. It's mapping, it's GPS, it's mapping on our GPSs. For you older guys that would have to go out and triangulate points, I mean, that stuff doesn't exist anymore. Young guys can come from South Carolina, show up in Alabama, never seen Guntersville once in their life. And, you know, when I was that age at 18, to come over to Guntersville, it would just be trying to navigate the lake without running over a shell bar and killing myself and knocking my motor off in the fall if the lake was low. Nowadays, you know, with the mapping and all that, they have no problem. Navigation is not even a thought process in their mind. They can get around anywhere, anytime they want. The highways and the lanes are laid out for them. The information's out there. It's also everything that's on TV with all the live coverage that's on the computer. Used to, all we had was just a 1 hour TV show that was a highlight film basically of 4 days of tournament fishing. And between commercials and everything else, there wasn't but 30 minutes of information there. So there were a lot of secrets kept. You know, guys didn't have to give up the baits that they were throwing, didn't have to give up the areas and the techniques specifically that they were using. There was a lot of secrets kept. Those secrets are no longer secrets. I mean, all these things are just public knowledge at such a rampant rate. I mean, any technique that you want to learn, anything that you want to learn how to do that you don't know how to do or you're not sure of, you can Google it. If you can't find it Googling it, you can go to YouTube and actually watch a video of somebody doing it, usually a million different videos of people doing it. You just have to comb through the ones that actually know what they're talking about and the ones that don't. But it's the same thing with message boards and everything else. There is a ton of information out there. And then the live between the the three big circuits that are out there now, between NPFL, Bass, and MLF, there's constantly, every day almost, starting by Tuesday or Wednesday, there's live coverage on. And you can consume 8 hours of live coverage of some of the best fishermen in the world, sitting on the best fisheries in the country, on the very best spot, using the technique of the day. So you learn very quickly. The learning curve is there, and it's showing. This first came up when Todd Castledine last year in 2022 fished the Toyota Championship on Lake Guntersville in the fall. Todd led the event after day one, or maybe a couple days there, makes the top 10 cut, and going into the last day, only 10 anglers. And there's always a meeting at the regional level stuff of the top 10 meeting, and all the guys get together. And Todd actually called me after the tournament and was like, dude, that was the weirdest top 10 meeting I think I've ever been to. It was like a reality check that things were changing. He said, when you make a top 10 at these things, and, you go out there and you work all week, you got your head down and you're busting your ass, and you're doing everything you can just to scrape in. You usually know about what the weight's going to be on a cut day, and so like you do everything you can. You think you catch that weight, you get in, you feel good because you're making the cut. You go to the meeting, and you kind of raise your head up and you look around, and it's the usual suspects, and it's kind of always been that way. It's like, if you're in our region, you look up and you see Dickie Newberry and Cody Bird and just different usual suspects. Like, it's usually not a surprise who you're looking at sitting there. It's like the same guys. And same thing for that Toyota Championship. You look up and then it'd just be different guys from different regions, and you're like, oh yeah, I know who that guy is, and yeah, I know who that guy is. Todd said he literally looked up. He's 43 years old, and he knew absolutely no one, first of all. Second of all, he said that he was by far the oldest guy there in the top 10 cut. So that kind of piqued my interest, and that's what I was going to show you guys, the mathematical numbers. And I'm telling you, this stuff, if it doesn't trip you out, it did me for sure. So I'm hoping you get as much out of this. After Todd and I had this conversation, I called Jody White last fall. Congratulations, Jody. Jody just won the Bassmaster Open up on the St. Lawrence River a couple weeks ago. Jody works for MLF, previously worked for FLW, doing the same job that he does now. He controls a lot of the media content, does the podcast. He's kind of a jack of all trades, but one of his biggest things that he usually does, he's heavily involved in the tournament photography and work like that. So any event that I've ever done well in over there, Jody has always been around. Always. He's on the water around. He'll get a follow boat. He captains the boat by himself, runs the camera, takes pictures, video, whatever, and then runs back to the boat ramp and usually does all this stuff by himself. So he's heavily involved in all the knowledge and things that go on during the tournaments. Well, I called Jody about this because I was like, hey, did you work the Toyota Championship? He was like, yeah. And so I brought up this age deal. Well, it kind of piqued his interest too because he agreed. And so he started running some numbers, and these are the things that he sent to me that we thought was very, very interesting. First of all, let's start with just that Toyota Championship from last fall at Guntersville. Like I said, Todd was the oldest. He was 43 and a half years old. I've got a list right here of it. Kyle Hall, Marshall Robinson, who's actually the son of Marty Robinson, a buddy of mine that I used to fish on the Elite Series with and now fishes on the MLF. Drew Gill, Matt Watia, I apologize, Matt, if I misspelled your name, Becker, Bredden Castledine, Donnie Bass, and Seth Davis. All right, here's their ages, starting with Kyle Hall, 25, 19, that's Marshall Robinson, 20, 30, 22, 30, 23, 43, that's Castledine, 42, and 33. Now, if that is like, hear those numbers and you're like, it doesn't sound like that much, Hallman. Let me show you what I'm talking about. This is the difference. This is where it's at. Jody went and pulled the average median age of everyone in the top 10 of the Toyota Championship. Before that, it would have been the same circuit, but the Costa Championship. Before that, it would have been the Rayovac Champion. And before that, it would have been the Everstart. And I don't honestly know what was before that. Maybe they won a spittoon or something from Red Man. I don't know. But Jody pulled the numbers back to 2001 all the way to 2022. This is the median age of the top 10 of each year, starting in 2001. In 2001, the median age was 58.3. In 2002, it was 60.4. 60 years old was the average age of all the guys in the top 10 in 2002. In 2003, it was 57. In 2004, it was 55, 52, 52.3, 56.3, 54.4. So we can agree that somewhere around 2009, it's not too far off of where it was in 2001. Then in 2010, it goes to 48. We skipped 2011, I guess here. 53, 55, 47.4, 53 years old. And this 53 years old is in 2015. 2015, the average age of the top 10 of a Toyota Championship was 55 years old in 2015. And this is where it starts changing. 2015, 53 years old, and then it goes 45-1, 45-8, 44, 42, 35-8 in 2020, 35-8, 43-1 in 2021, and then 28-6. Yeah, 28-6 in 2022. So from 2002, the average age was 60.4 to 2022 is 28.6. Now, that's the best regional, some professional, mixed in together anglers in the United States. 22.6. That's massive. Like, it's unbelievable. And you can see it start falling at 2015. Falls. Then, 2023, it may go back up a little bit. But it's never going back up to 55. In the 50s where it stayed for years. What's causing it, right? Well, we talked about a lot of that. In 2010, which is still a long time ago. So let's go back a decade. So this is 2023. So 2013. The average age a decade ago was, in 2015, 2015, we're going to do it. 2015, so less than 10 years ago, the average age was 53 years old. 53. And so in how many years is that? From 15 to 23, is that 8 years? Yeah. 22, 7 years. Okay, so 2015, in 7 years, that's what we're looking at here. It has gone from 53 years old to 28.6. So this has all happened in the last 7 years. What's caused it? Well, like I said, we talked about some of this at the beginning of the video. This is big stuff, guys. Like, this has changed because just 7 years ago, it was 53 because it took those guys, generally it was a lot of locals or locals of that region, and they had a lot of experience, they had a lot of information, and they understood those fisheries, and it showed in those regional championships. Same thing on the national tours that's happening today. It's not just live scope, but it is a big part of it. Technology has changed so that they're chasing open water fish that are no longer sitting on a rock pile or a hump or a shell bed, a digit that doesn't move, where you can get a waypoint from your buddy who lives there on the lake and cracks them every week. Those are becoming less important. But like I said, it's mapping, it's navigation, GPS, being able to get around. And to me, the thing that's not talked about enough is the advent of live. Live footage really got going right around that time. I know Bass has been doing it a while, but in 2016, I won the FLW Tour on Okeechobee. In 2016, there wasn't all day long live coverage. There was a cameraman in the boat, but he was filming for a TV show that they were going to edit and do the old school 1 hour. By 2017, that's when live coverage started at FLW, and Bass had already been doing it for maybe 2 years before that. So you had one circuit doing it. Now we have 3 circuits running it with the best anglers in the world, like I said. And I think that in itself, guys want to get on here and talk about our live scope or forward-facing sonar or side imaging, while I agree all those are tools that are helping, it's the advent of the education, being able to watch and learn. It's a huge tool. So for you young guys that are wanting to learn, I think it's consume as much as you possibly can, and I believe that you guys are for the most part. You have a lot of time on your hands. You got that phone in your hand, you're looking at it and can watch live, but it is changing our sport. And I actually think it's changing our sport for the good. I've gone through this, and I think it's great that the young guys are able to reach their prime. Their knowledge and experience can be sped up to where they don't have to spend 20 years on the water. When I started on the Elite Series in 2006, most of the anglers, Van Dam, Iconelli, all the guys that were really in their prime, they were in their 40s. And I think that they were in their 40s because it really honestly took 20 years, you know, of traveling, experience, seeing different water conditions, learning. I'm not saying they weren't good before that, right? Obviously, Kevin was good out of the gate, and so was Ike and everything else. But really in their prime, like just straight up wheelhouse, right? It was 40s. Early 40s, late 30s, early 40s was really their wheelhouse. That age is dropping. Luke Palmer from Oklahoma. I remember fishing against Luke in local tournaments when he was with his dad in team tournaments, and he was a kid. I mean, a kid. And they were a good team. They were good fishermen. He just finished second. He almost just won his second event this year. Both events, forward-facing sonar events that he was able to be successful with. Same thing with Joey, forward-facing sonar. But it's more than that. It's the education that they're able to get so quickly just from watching live coverage, and I think that's a big part of it. But I wanted to talk about this and make a video about it. I'm not complaining about it by any means. I know that somebody would think, oh, well, Hallman's making a video complaining, because I'm not. I think it's cool. We all have access to the same tools and the learning abilities. But I'm just pointing something out that this is a big change in our sport. I mean, if we were talking about, I'm trying to think of another sport where older athletes, maybe golf, baseball definitely, for whatever reason, they don't just rush guys straight to the majors. But at that age, you saw it dropping so drastically. I mean, this is a huge drop. So it shows you that our sport is changing. This may be what the sports needed all along to bring the non-endemics in. This is something that people haven't talked about. Maybe a guy in his 40s is not so attractive to Home Depot or Lowe's or McDonald's, but maybe a guy that's 25 that's unstoppable is. If that's the case, then it is better for our sport, and because it needs it. It needs the influx of non-endemics, and that's very apparent. Point being, the age is getting younger, and we all just getting older. So if you want to catch some more bass, I told you the ways to get to work. They're there, available to each and every one of us. Hey guys, while I've talked about all this, please leave all your comments below. If you got any questions, leave them below. We'll get to them. I learn from you just like you learn from me. It's part of the great part of this YouTube world that we live in. I think that pretty much wraps it up for me. Until next time, guys, I'm out of here.